Our final scenario highlights some of the issues involved in conducting TB interviews with patients in non-urban settings and under private care. Sheila is a stay-at-home mom in a non-urban area who was diagnosed by her private physician last week. She was instructed to remain in home isolation and wear a mask until she becomes non-infectious. A public health nurse called her earlier in the week to set up a home interview. The patient was reluctant to have the interviewer come to her house, but after taking some basic information, the nurse was able to persuade Sheila to cooperate. As you watch this scene, notice what would have been missed had the nurse not visited the home. Watch for Sheila's nonverbal cues and what you can learn from them. Notice how this interviewer deals with Sheila's emotional state. And finally, look for potential infection control issues.
Sheila is a 38-year-old African-American woman who's had a cough for about 6 weeks. She refused admission to the hospital by her private physician because she has child care issues. So we need to go out and find out what's going on with her. Hi, Sheila. I'm Mary Ann McAvoy, public health nurse.
Nice to
How
see
are
you. Pleasure to see you. Do you know what? She just fell asleep. Do you mind if I take her upstairs, Mary Ann?
No, go right ahead. And I'm going to
Right.
put my mask on.
Okay, you do that. Thanks.
We asked patients about their perception of personal respirators, and the most startling thing was that only 50% of the patients had had a healthcare worker explain to them why they were wearing a personal respirator. But most of the patients, once they understood why the healthcare workers were wearing respirators, thought that it was quite appropriate and, in fact, preferred to know that people were being protected against a disease that they did not wish upon anybody.
You don't mind the kitchen, do you?
No, thank you. It's a beautiful place.
Seat right here. Thank you. Excuse me.
Sheila, as I mentioned when I first came in, that I'm wearing a mask to protect myself, and it would be a good idea if you wore a mask too. Would you mind putting it on now?
Now? Right now.
Mm-hmm. It's important that you wear a mask while you're in your house so that you don't transmit germs to your family members.
And carrying a tissue doesn't help that at all.
Well, carrying a tissue or covering your nose and your mouth with the tissue is somewhat helpful, but it's better if you use the mask.
Okay.
After you cough, the particles stay in the air for a long period of time, anywhere from minutes to hours. And then someone else can rebreathe those particles, and that's one of the way that TB is spread.
Okay, I understand. In all honesty, I remember most of the time to put that on. But, you know, I'm figuring if we're all infected, what's the point?
It's an incorrect assumption to make. Sheila should have worn the mask at all times, and Marianne never would have known that if she'd conducted interview over the telephone.
The patient was wearing an N95 mask, and we always like that to be a surgical mask for the patients.
The N95 respirators, because they do fit more tightly, may have a little more resistance to breathing, making more work of breathing. So for patients that are compromised by pulmonary tuberculosis, that may be difficult. If the patient's still considered infectious, though, then the guidelines suggest that the healthcare workers or other visitors who may go into the home should be wearing a personal respirator. Usually for healthcare workers, that's an N95. The nurse was wearing one type of N95 respirator, so some confusion comes up because of the different designs of the N95 respirators. So some are cup-shaped, some have a duckbill type of shape, some have a molded shape. But one feature is that they usually all have at least two straps which contribute to the tighter fit.
So what I want to do today is ask you some information about who your contacts are, who you live with, who you work with, who you socialize with.
We all know that TB interviewing is ultimately about identifying contacts, getting them evaluated, getting them on treatment, getting completing treatment. But the interview is about other things as well, building trust and rapport, educating the patient, exchanging information, and so I think that as an opening statement, I'm here to talk about identifying contacts, just jumped right in it.
You're married?
I am married.
And what's your husband's name?
That would be John.
All right. And he lives here with you?
He's here.
Okay, so same address. And when is his birth date?
It's October 30th, 1962.
Okay. And do you know if he has any history of having tuberculosis or an infection with tuberculosis?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Was he born in this country?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Has he had a skin test?
Yes, he has.
He did. And do you know what the result was?
Don't know the results.
Okay. Who did that test?
Our doctor.
Okay. And who's his doctor?
Dr. Durazio.
Okay. Do you know if he had a chest x-ray?
I don't know. I believe he did when he went to see the doctor.
Okay. When will your husband be at home?
He works long hours. If we're lucky, he'll be home by 8 this evening.
Okay. So if I call after 8 p.m., or if you could ask him that information for me and I can give you a call tomorrow.
Okay.
If not, then I can contact the doctor.
The doctor directly.
Okay. Who else lives in your house?
I have a daughter,
And what's her name?
Dasha, D-A-S-H-A.
Okay, that's that beautiful little baby
Yes,
that
isn't
you
she?
had in your arms when I
She's
first
precious.
came in. And when is her birthday?
August.
Is Dasha a newborn baby? Was Sheila actually infectious prior to giving birth to Dasha? And if she was, did she go to parenting classes, OBGYN clinics? Was she around other pregnant moms who maybe also could have possibly become infected? How much time did Sheila spend in these settings?
Okay, does Dasha go to childcare?
No, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I'm with
Okay.
her all the time.
Okay. Do you do any childcare in your home?
No, I don't. Mm-mm.
Okay. Is there any other children in the home?
I do have a boy.
Okay, and what's
Troy.
his name?
He's 8.
And does he have the same last name?
Yes, he does.
Okay,
Excuse me for a second.
all right.
Thanks. Hello? Hi, Mom. How are you? Well, I'm hanging in there, Mom. Right, we should be back about 11. Yeah, I'll leave instructions for the baby up on the refrigerator. Thanks, Mom. Love you. Bye-bye.
So you said your mom's coming over?
Right. Mom's coming over to take care of Dasha tonight.
Okay, and where are you going?
We have tickets for a play that I've been dying to see for about 7 months now.
Oh, Sheila, do you realize that your doctor has emphasized with you and as well as me that it's very important that you not go out?
Well, you know, I've had tickets for 7 months. Am I not permitted to go out at all?
You're not permitted to go out to a public place like a theater, no, because there's a great big chance that you could transmit this disease to other people.
No, I didn't understand that when he said that. I can't go out in my mask. I mean,
No, you can't go out. The only time you could really go out is if you're going to your doctor's office for a visit or a treatment or to the hospital.
And how long is that going to be?
Well, you probably will be in what we call isolation, self-isolation here in your house for at least 2 weeks. But the truth of it is that it could be longer than that because you are contagious. I was so glad that she had received that phone call while I was sitting there. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known that she had planned on going to the theater tonight. So hopefully that stopped that behavior from occurring.
You know, I had tickets for a long time, and it's something I really wanted to see. But I'd have to say she convinced me not to go. I think, more awful about the fact that I might go and possibly infect other people than, you know, getting over the simple fact that, you know, tickets go, don't go.
At that point, Sheila was getting kind of frustrated. It's like, I can't do this, I can't do that, because things weren't explained up front.
Upon arrival, the nurse could have actually explained to Sheila exactly what home isolation is, and to make certain that Sheila's adhering to all of the guidelines for home isolation, and then Sheila would have realized that going to a play was not a part of, this is not something she should actually be doing at that point.
Okay. What else do you need?
Well, I need your mom's name.
That would be Barbara.
Okay. And what's her last name?
Her last name is Smith.
I'm sorry, Sheila. I know this is a really tough time for you.
It is very tough.
But sometimes it's important to consider the the risk to others.
Mary Ann did a wonderful thing by reaching out and touching the patient. I think the patient was touched by that, and that could never be accomplished over the telephone.
I felt more, more comfortable when I realized that she was treating me more like a person. This wasn't just some job. Let me get the information and get out.
So the people that live in your house are your husband, your daughter, and your son. Is there anyone else that lives in your house?
No.
All right. How long have you had the cough, Sheila?
About 6 weeks.
About 6 weeks. Okay, so judging by health department guidelines, I would say the infectious period began about October. So what I'm going to be looking for, I'm going to be asking for who you've been in contact with since October.
We want the patient to talk. And if we ask the patient yes/no questions, the patient is going to answer yes/no. So we need to be aware of how we ask. We want to ask the right questions. We want to ask them the right way. And open-ended questions, generally speaking, is the right way to ask the question.
Are there other people that you attend religious services with regularly, or that you have recreational activities with? Or if you say you're unemployed, but since October, did you have any employment?
Well, let me think. I'm a soccer mom.
Okay.
And I'm usually the mom who drives the van.
Okay.
Could I have infected those children?
Well, there's always the possibility. That'll be my job to find that out. So can you tell me the children that are in the carpool with you?
It seems that because the patient was in a rural setting, she was probably a distance from most activities. So one would assume that travel in a car, as she did mention in the interview, in a van, would take a greater period of time, hence increasing the amount of time that people have to spend in the car with an infectious case.
And what I will also need from you are their phone numbers and addresses. Okay?
I will get them for you. That's
fine. Okay, so that was what I would consider some recreation. Is there anything else that you do on your own without the children, or is there anything else you do with Troy?
I was attending a writing class at the county college.
Okay.
I haven't been there for a couple weeks, though.
And what time was the class?
We met Wednesdays at 6.
One time a week?
One time a week.
Okay. How many people were in your class?
There were 10 students.
Okay.
You're going to need to know them as well?
Possibly. How long of a class was this? 6 o'clock till? What time did it end?
Why do you need to know that?
Well, the more time you spend with people, the greater the chance of being exposed.
So the contact with somebody doesn't have to be, I don't know, sexual in nature, or
No.
I mean kissing, or you can be in somebody's environment.
TB isn't spread by kissing or having sex.
A patient's nonverbal cues sometimes can tell you much more than what the patient has actually verbally said to you. If they're clenching their fists or rolling their eyes or furrowing their foreheads or just doing an awful lot of sighing, it tells you how uncomfortable or how comfortable the patient may be with the interview or the topics that you're introducing at that point.
Tuberculosis is spread in the air by coughing, speaking, singing, those kind of activities. So you're putting that particle, that germ particle, into the air, and then it's sitting there, it's staying there, it's not dropping down to the floor as if it were a cold virus. And then the next person comes in and rebreathes that air.
So why is it necessary for you to know how long my classes last? I mean, being in a classroom is being in a classroom.
Well, if it's 1 hour or 4 hours, it can make a difference. So was it a 1 hour class?
It was a 2.5-hour class.
And then what happened at 8:30? Did everybody go home, or did you
usually
hang
we
out
go-
for coffee?
do
Or?
study partner.
Okay, and who was that?
Is that necessary?
Well, just to make the investigation complete, it is important to get all the information, and then we can kind of sort it out.
His name would be Tom Hannum.
Okay. All right.
And what happens with that information? I mean, what you find out something, and what happens then? Well, it's very personal information, and I don't think I realized the extent of everything, especially when we started talking about contacting everyone that I have contact, you know, that I'm in touch with. That's tough. That's real tough.
She was cooperative as much as can be expected. If I was on the other end, I think I'd feel the same way, a little resistant, who's going to know my name and my diagnosis. So I understand and respect her fears. Sheila, as I told you before, this information is confidential. I don't have to reveal your name to anyone, but I have to let them know that they had the potential to be exposed to someone with tuberculosis. And what I would be asking them to do is to take a skin test to see if they tested positive. It's your option, though, to reveal that you have tuberculosis to some of these people that you're mentioning to me, but you don't have to do that.
There is concern about healthcare workers telling patients that everything you tell them is confidential. I think we need to move away from that because it's very misleading for patients, particularly if a patient who's infectious or potentially infectious that attends school or works or lives in a shelter. We need to explain to patients that their identity may be revealed on a need-to-know basis in order to conduct a quality investigation.
There's some other questions that I'm going to ask you. Again, some of these are very personal questions, and I want to assure you that this information is just going to be shared between us and the health department. Have you ever been tested for the HIV virus?
Yes.
And do you know your result?
I am negative. There's
Okay.
HIV.
Do you know the last time or when were you tested?
Within the past 5 years.
5 years, okay. Have you ever been in a correctional facility? Have you ever been in prison?
Oh no, thank God, no.
Okay. I know, I said they're kind of... Have you ever used or are you now using any injecting drugs?
No.
For contact investigations, we need to know everything about a patient during the infectious period. And if a patient is giving a history of substance use during what we establish as the infectious period, it gives us an idea of the lifestyle, obviously, and perhaps there are other contacts, social, casual contacts that are high-risk contacts that we want to know about.
Normally when people have tuberculosis in the early periods, they are hospitalized, isolated, so that they don't give the disease to other people. So it's very, very important that you abide by what the doctor's saying. All right?
I got you.
Are you taking your medicine?
I sure am.
May I see them?
Sure, I am right here. A sec.
All right, well, these are the standard medications that we use for tuberculosis, or actually they're anti-tuberculosis medications. And how do you take them? Are you taking them at the same time, all at once, every day?
I take them once a day and all at the same time.
Okay, that's the way they should be taken.
Okay,
Have you noticed
good.
any side effects?
No.
Okay. Has anybody come into your house and actually watched you take your medication? Has your doctor sent anyone from his office? Or?
No, that sounds kind of ridiculous.
Actually, it's one of those things that it's important that we want to ensure that you take your medication, because this is, it's transmittable. Other people can get this disease, so we don't want it to be transmitted.
So we'll just bring somebody else in and watch the traffic go in and out of here, county logo on the cars. I mean,
well, we don't have to necessarily bring our county cars. We can drive personal cars. But what time do you normally take your medication?
I take it first thing in the morning.
Is that 8 o'clock?
About 8:15.
Okay. So how about if we have somebody here early in the morning at about 8 o'clock, and they'll come, they'll watch you take your medications, they'll just ask you how you're feeling, and then they'll scoot right out of here.
The nurse could have described DOTs by telling her that this is actually the standard practice that we have. To provide DOT, and explain the nature of the illness itself, that at first you're very ill, and so therefore taking the medication is high priority, and you think about it, constantly, but as you take the medication, begin to feel better, the illness is such that you no longer exhibit the symptoms or feeling ill or bad, and so therefore you tend to forget, and this is only human. And then I think the nurse could have explained some of the consequences of not taking the medication constantly and for the length of treatment prescribed.
So can I ask you? All right, that's good. Thank you.
Please, we need to try and keep a little discretion involved here. I really appreciate that.
Those people are part of the health department staff, and they're bound by confidentiality. All right. Now I have a little TB booklet for you. If you have any questions, You can maybe get some of the light answers in there. You might want to share that with your family. Here's my card with my name and phone number. If you want to call me and ask me any questions, there's my business hours.
Great.
All right? And
Only business hours, huh?
okay.
You're not there if I have that breakdown at 12:30 a.m.
Well,
right?
if you have some mental health issues, then I can certainly refer you to someone that
Okay.
can help you with that, okay? I know it's a tough road ahead,
is tough.
but it is curable, and you will be able to get outside again.
The public health nurse did not ask Sheila if she had any questions. Had she asked Sheila if she had any questions, Sheila might have actually asked things and that's extremely important to her care. But the nurse didn't ask, and so therefore she doesn't know. She doesn't have any understanding of just what it is Sheila understands about her illness and its treatment.
She was definitely still infectious, hadn't been on medication long enough, and that young child could very definitely be infected and develop into active TB disease in a very, very short period of time. And I would have wanted someone to address that issue, and the nurse did know during the interview that there were young children in the home. In some instances, we asked the family to remove children that age from the home for a period of time until we can have the children tested to make sure that they're okay at that point.
All right, so I just want to emphasize again, to do what your doctors asked you to do, wear your mask, take your medication, cover your mouth when you're coughing. All right, those are the important things.
And don't go out. Don't forget that.
And stay in until you get approved to go back out. All right, you're grounded. Look at it like that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mary Ann.
I still need more information. I need to follow up with her household contacts, with her parents, and get some information from them in terms of date of births, verifying that, and phone numbers. I also need to follow through on the van pool, the car pool with the soccer team members, and I'll have to contact the college to get in contact with the study buddy and possibly other members of the class.
This scenario highlighted some of the challenges involved in conducting TB interviews in a non-urban setting. Given the wide service area and a small staff, it may be tempting to conduct an interview over the phone. But as you saw in Sheila's case, the home visit is very important. The interviewer would not have known that Sheila was taking off her mask, nor would she have learned about her plans for that evening. The in-person communication also allowed for rapport building that wasn't possible by phone. Sheila displayed obvious discomfort in her body language, and Mary Ann was able to comfort her very effectively, prompting Sheila to be more open with her. But the interviewer didn't properly educate Sheila. Things weren't explained until she got upset. Had the interviewer provided adequate education about TB early in the interview, Sheila may not have reacted as she did. As a TB interviewer, it's critical to determine who are the high-risk contacts and ensure that these people are quickly identified and evaluated. While she's concerned about maintaining her confidentiality, securing Sheila's participation will help the investigation go more smoothly.
I think a good interview has to have a blend of knowing when to be assertive, when to back away, when to be sensitive, when to be persistent, know when to stop a stalled interview.
And I think part of that is learning how to read people, so to speak, learning how to listening to their verbal and nonverbal cues as to what you can get away with at this time, and getting a sense of timing. What's the right time? Because some things may have to wait till later.
I think people who are generally interested in other people make good interviewers. People who can be accepting of other people's attitudes and beliefs without saying that their belief system is 100% right, and anybody who disagrees with that is not acceptable to them. I say a good interview is a people person, someone who obviously shows that they're very interested in other people and that they like them.